If you think about the traditional mindset of a dealership, it's capacity divided by number of hours equals, a time slot. Every 15 minutes you have people coming in. Well, the name of the game in mobile service is density.
Welcome to Retention Roadmap, navigating service success for new car dealerships. I've really been looking forward to today's conversation, and I'm really happy to have with us today Denise Leleux, Chief Executive Officer of Curbee, the fastest growing mobile service technology platform for dealerships, who's redefining how automotive service is delivered and experienced. So, Denise, welcome to the podcast. Thrilled to have you with us today.
Thank you, Bill. I'm thrilled to be here and get to share a conversation with you for your audience.
Thank you. Well, great. So let's get right into it. So, Denise, I know that you were part of the team that developed, an instrumental part of the team that developed the mobile service and mobile service platform for Tesla. And I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about that and perhaps some of the insights that you took away from that experience.
Yes, I'd love to. So when we were at Tesla, right as the Model 3 was coming out, we were really trying to protect the service experience for the Models S, X, and the Roadster. So we went to Elon and we said, look, we need some money to open more service centers around the world. And he said, as only Elon can, no, figure it out differently in a different way. So we asked a service center in California to work with us and and we gave them kind of two requirements: service the vehicle in the parking lot, and the time constraint was while the customer drank a cup of coffee. And so we went back a couple weeks later, and the aha and insight was that the majority of the vehicles did not need to be lifted at least on a 4-post lift, in order to get serviced. And so that was the breakthrough. So we kind of said, if you don't need to lift the vehicle, it doesn't need to be in the service center, doesn't need to be in the parking lot. We can actually go to the customer's home. And so originally we thought about it for Model 3, but of course S and X customers loved it as well. And I think the biggest insight was just customer joy.
Mm-hmm. Great. So when you look at the landscape for mobile service in general today, and particularly as it relates to new car dealerships, what does that look like in 2024 as compared to just a few years back?
As far as like for mobile service,
Yeah.
When I think about I think about dealers. The time is now, right? The dealer community often has backlogs to get appointments in. And that, I think, is a big tipping point. That and post-warranty is a big tipping point for customers to look elsewhere for service, like third parties or now this proliferation of mobile service opportunities. So for me, I would love in 2024 to see every dealership wanting to start mobile service for their customers.
Mm-hmm. So when you look at, a typical, what's the profile, kind of an ideal dealership candidate for implementing mobile service?
There's a couple of things. So of course, when you think about the tacticals, the tactics, it's, people who have a backlog in their service bays, dealerships who don't have either the physical capacity to expand their dealership or the capital to expand the dealership. They're seeing a higher average of customers who are not active, so that post-warranty drop-off that I talked about. But then I think even bigger than that, because those are just like symptoms, but I think it's, are you a creative leadership team? Do you have creative problem solving? Are you a leadership team that wants to develop a new line of business? And are you willing to kind of unblock the blockers from the technician all the way up so that you can start to perform mobile service and be in the driveway and all of that? So it's both. It's like, do you need it? And then do you want to offer that consumer, customer satisfaction and all of that to your customers and to fleets? Fleets really are in demand for mobile service, but also do you have the leadership kind of capacity and will to deliver and to start a new line of business?
Sure. So there's a whole lot to unpack there. Is there any difference that you see, Denise, with respect to dealers who are more successful with mobile service who say luxury versus non-luxury dealerships? Do you see any difference there?
No. I'm kind of like, because I'm thinking back to when we had our own development centers as we were developing both the technology as well as the operational playbooks. Our top five were a mix between, kind of domestic brands and luxury brands.
Hmm.
So I think customers maybe have different expectations about, is there a convenience fee, or is this part of what I'm purchasing as a package on my vehicle? Is it part of a subscription? So I think dealers can be really creative in how they position it to their customers. But I think everybody wants convenience, transparency. You can get almost anything done in your driveway these days,
Hmm.
from food delivery to my pet is getting groomed literally right now. And so, you can do so. Mobile service is just one more thing. And customers, I think we all learned through the pandemic time is, something that people very, very much value.
Absolutely, for sure. Any difference with respect to the location of the dealership, specifically urban, suburban, rural type dealerships? All good candidates, or what do you see in there?
Yeah, I think everybody's a good candidate for it. Especially like when you work with Curbee, it's not like a perfect circle of, here's your dealership and here's the space in which you go for mobile service. Some people might want to go farther out to the west or the east,
Hmm.
or up and down a highway.
Hmm.
And so I think it's, again, where are your customers? And maybe, again, what you could do if you were in a more rural space is like go to places every couple days. So you're here Monday and Wednesday. We found when we were doing our development centers, the majority of customers, and I do mean like over 80%, wanted an appointment within 2 days. So if you're going to do that kind of model, where you're going to hit different parts of your kind of towns or cities, you want to make sure that you're at least hitting it every couple days.
Gotcha. Yeah, so talk to us a little bit, Denise, if you would, about the development model that you went through with Curbee, because I know that you're working with dealerships now, but you did some developmental work up front. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did there and what your learnings were and how they're translating into, working directly with dealers?
Yes. Well, so when we left Tesla, obviously people were saying, well, it's your vertically integrated OEM, it's all EVs. And so what we wanted to prove is that it's EV, it's ICE, and it's all makes and models. And that customers are really customers and they're looking for again, that convenience of mobile service. So when we started the development centers, we literally started pen and paper, wrote out what we thought would be a good value map, tested every little component, had to reiterate. How do you package the vans? How do you, and kit them? What services work really well? How do you attract customers? How does the technician show up? Because now the technician is kind of a pseudo service advisor as well. And so teaching that front of house skill. And then, of course, the customer is very, very excited to kind of be poking around and seeing what you're working on their vehicle. And they want to talk to you. And so how do you really manage those conversations? So I could talk for hours on that. But a third thing we learned as we started to work with dealers is that we need to be integrated into the DMS so that the dealer has that system of record. Everything points back to their system of record. So we're integrated into Techion. We're almost done with CDK, and we'll keep moving down the list as well. But I think that was another aha as we kind of started to pivot and work with dealers.
Gotcha. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about the technology integration there. Help us understand why it's so important to integrate with the DMS, and
Yeah.
how mobile service is different from a process perspective.
Yes, that's a lot to unpack there, Bill. What I think on the process side, it certainly starts with the scheduling of the appointment. So in mobile service, and again, when we first started, we would say, Bill, do you want us to come at 8:30? So if you think about the traditional mindset of a dealership, it's, capacity divided by number of hours equals, a time slot. Every 15 minutes, you have people coming in. Well, the name of the game in mobile service is density. And so we ended with, and we tested everything you could test, but we ended with 3 4-hour booking windows. So that's a big difference between a DMS system and our system. And so a customer books within a 4-hour window, and then the night before they get that 1-hour arrival window. So that, again, it's allowing the system, as more appointments are getting booked, to move everybody around to have the most efficient and dense route for the dealership so that they can get profitable quickly. So that's a big difference with our system, and why it needs to be connected is the dealership needs to understand obviously when the appointments are and all of that. But then you move into parts. So we just want to route right through the parts to get that kitted the night before so that the vans are ready and the technician is ready when he gets in the morning, or he or she. And then, of course, through the RO process itself. And then we have our own MPVI, we call it a health check, in our app, and that the technician goes through, but it just uploads into back into the DMS. So again, all of the information is right there for the dealership.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. And what typically are the services that a mobile technician can perform on site for a vehicle owner?
Yeah, for us it always starts with the dealer and the dealership and what do they want to offer. So again, when we were doing our development centers, we weren't able to do recalls or warranty work.
Sure.
So we were kind of focused on that three after warranty period, 3 to 10 years. But we tried to do everything that we could. I think it's over 90% of what a car typically needs in a year doesn't need a four-post lift, and so could be performed mobily. So, but we kind of let the dealership tell us. So we have some dealers, they just want to stick their toe in and say, I want to just do, tire rotations and oil changes. We have other dealerships who say, you know what, I want to do mostly diag, so that, because I do want to push it back into my service center. But what I want to do is be really efficient. I want to know what's wrong, parts ordered, so that when they do bring the vehicle in, it's super fast and convenient and easy for the customer, and they see more throughput. And then we have people who have bought tire vans, and they're mountain balancing tires out in the field,
Great.
doing brakes, batteries, recalls, warranty. So yeah, so it's as much as the imagination of the dealer.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about pricing, because pricing is obviously an important component in all auto service. But in how have you found how are dealers pricing their mobile services vis-a-vis customers coming into the dealership service drive? What are you seeing that works?
We see a couple of things. Some want to do as much as they can through kind of like a flat rate or just a menu price, so that the customer knows exactly what they're going to be getting. It's like an oil change. And then others will price it very similar or within 10%, say, of what they would price it in the service bay.
Hmm.
But then you're also seeing some people who are either pricing for premium or they're pricing with a convenience fee, in order to come out. So they're treating it more like it's a convenience to you, and so we're going to actually add on. So we've seen all the different models, and I think it's really up to the dealership and what their customer base expects for them to choose. But we
Yep.
can certainly help guide them and,
Hmm.
and give them the feedback that we've seen.
Gotcha. You mentioned a couple of times about the issue of service department capacity, which we have found to be an issue over the last, particularly over the last 18 months to 24 months, and where we find that customers who can't get that service appointment within what they call a reasonable period of time, it might be a week to 2 weeks, are at a high risk of defection to go into the aftermarket. And actually, this was part of our 2023 service retention study that we did of 1,400 active service customers of new car dealerships, and found that level of appointments availability for the customers had dramatically shifted from the last time we did that study in 2020. So if anybody wants a copy of that report, they can either get in touch with me via LinkedIn or drop me an email. Or you can find it on our website at www.drivesure.com/resources, and you can download it there. But what have you found mobile service has done for effectively increasing that service department capacity and making appointments more available for customers? Do you have any information you can share, any statistics you can share about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure how many statistics I'd have on that, but I definitely, again, some dealerships are starting with one van, so the capacity is only going to increase, 5, 6, 7 appointments per day.
Hmm.
And then there are some that have 5, 6 vans,
Hmm.
more mature programs, which again, they're taking 30 or so appointments and increasing that capacity. And then also therefore increasing the capacity back into the bays as well. So if you're taking appointments out, you can put more appointments in. So there is that. We saw again the same thing that your research showed, was that the majority of customers really wanted to have that appointment within 2 days, 2 business days. And I think the other is that when customers, I read something I think it was late last year, around tires is really that place where if people can't get a tire appointment and they go somewhere else for tires, that's really where you see the drop off. They take all their business to that third party or aftermarket, and then they really only show back up when they were ready to purchase a new vehicle. One OEM shared with me that they had done a study that said if a customer was active in the service department within 12 months prior to purchasing a new vehicle, they're 2 times more likely to purchase from the same dealer and the same brand.
Yeah.
So again, I think it's just everything points to, and then the last point I'd say on this is I've also seen some research that says the average ticket between a dealership and an aftermarket is really within $10 or $15. And so there is no reason why customers aren't going to their dealership for service. So I think there's this whole thing around education and value, and it just that this is not to do with mobile service necessarily, but I just think there's an opportunity that dealers have to kind of recapture their customer base.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we find the same thing with respect to dealerships that we work with through our DriveShare product, which is, designed to help increase the awareness of tires in the mind of the consumer. Because even today in 2024, we find that too large of the customer base doesn't even realize that the dealership sells tires. So then when they have a need for tires, or specifically an unplanned need for tires, they pick up a nail in a sidewall or that type of thing. Too many of them just don't even think of the dealership, and they go to, an independent tire store, an independent garage, or a chain store to get tires. And as you said, that's a big defection point, and they may never return. So increasing that awareness of tires is absolutely essential. So I'm really happy to hear that, you're seeing a lot of dealerships doing tire rotations and tire services with mobile service, because that is absolutely a big defection point that can help maintain that relationship with that customer until they purchase
Right.
another vehicle, for sure.
Yep.
Along those same lines, when you look at customers who have the mobile service experience, what are you seeing with respect to retaining those customers over time? And what are you seeing in terms of the kind of the typical age of the vehicle that's being serviced by mobile service?
Yeah, so 2 different answers here, because when we were doing our development center, again, we saw that 3 to 10 year, because we weren't doing warranty and recalls.
Yep.
What we see with dealers, oftentimes they want to start with warranty and recalls because it's a great kind of really great benefit for the customer to come out, do that work so they don't have to bring the car in, as well as then they could do that health check or the MPVI and then find other things to recommend to the customer. So we kind of see it's moving down into that, very early age, first oil change. And I think, I love when dealers want to do first oil change for a new vehicle as mobile service, because I think you get customers hooked right away.
Yeah.
When we were doing our development center, and we work with our dealers on this, but we kind of had a magic moment. And I know before we started filming or recording, you were talking about you're going to be on NADA in 2025. I happened to be on a panel last year, and I talked a little bit about this around this magic moment, which is, for us, it was, easy to find, easy to book, easy communication, fixed right first time, showed up on time, all of those things. And that collectively is what earns that customer for life, where they just never want to go anywhere but have you come to them for mobile service.
Yeah. Because our audience is typically a dealership service directors, fixed operations directors, general managers. Can you talk a little bit about what a typical mobile service operation does in terms of number of customers per day, and that type of thing? Just some of the some of the business metrics around mobile service that might be helpful to our audience who might be
Yeah,
considering putting in mobile service?
I love it. Absolutely. So, when we start with a customer, we try and get them, 2, 3, 4 appointments per van per day as like that ramp, that kind of 90-day ramp. But I think a dealer, typically, again, it depends. There's some variables here, but depending, it's about 5. You want about 5 appointments per van to get at least the van profitable. And then again, if you're already operating a program and you've got a lot of back office or support because you're printing maps and you're having to reschedule and all of that, that's where our software really comes into play, so that you have very limited need for back office support. And so again, that would get to the overall program profitability. But you could expect 5, 6 kind of consumer appointments per van. But then if you start to add fleet, you're getting 7, 8, 9 appointments. We worked with one very large kind of third-party reseller when we were doing our development center, and we were doing 15 appointments there every day. So again, it's just fleet, consumer, really starts to make a nice program, a
Beautiful,
profitable program.
beautiful. So going back to kind of the landscape for mobile service, I know that there are some OEMs who are starting to dip their toe in the water, and some are starting to jump into the water. Can you talk a little bit about Curbee's kind of unique selling proposition, if you will, or what you feel like you do best, and how you might coordinate with some of the OEM programs?
Yeah, thanks. So, for Curbee, we help dealers deploy and operate the mobile service program kind of profitably end to end. And it's through 3 different ways. It's through the SaaS technology that really streamlines the end to end process. The second piece is our operational playbooks that you can learn from all of our mistakes and what we've learned over the years. And then the third piece is that DMS integration. So it's really a nice combination with the OEM program. So I've talked to a lot of OEMs. I'm familiar with many of their programs and through our dealers. And what I have found is it's a nice complement, because the OEM is saying, you can buy my van, I can kit it for you, or a vehicle. Here are the warranty, recall, service items that we will either incent you to perform, or we approve that you can perform in the field. And then they kind of say, good luck, go get them. And so partnering with us, we kind of help you to bring that to life so that you can maximize any OEM incentives or programs, but also working with them to, working with the dealers to make sure that they can, that van doesn't just sit there as an advertisement in the front of the dealership, that it actually gets out and gets used.
Great, fantastic. As we wrap up here, Denise, is there any question that you kind of wished I would have asked you that I should have, and if so, how might you have answered it?
Well, I think I'm going to go back to what you said at the beginning, which is your passion for mobile service, and what makes you passionate for it, and what have you heard in the industry from dealers that are interested in mobile service?
Yeah, I think that when you look back over the years, there's been, I think, a number of companies out there that have made some traction with mobile service, but it seems to be, particularly over the last year or so, enjoying a resurgence. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. Yeah, I've been, as I shared with you earlier, when I was working on my MBA way back in the early 90s, I actually headed a group project where we did a business plan for a mobile service, mobile oil change business. And so it's something that we've had our eye on for some time. And I think that it can provide, I think there's a bigger need for it today because of, in certain instances, service department capacity is stretched. And for a lot of dealers, particularly in urban areas, they just don't have the real estate to be able to expand their service operations. So I think mobile is a really interesting and potentially very helpful way in which to service their customers. As you said earlier, I think with the changes that happened in the world a few years back with respect to COVID, made bringing services to vehicle owners more acceptable to them, and I think there's more opportunity there. And I think that as vehicles also get more complex, there's also an opportunity there to be able to service those vehicles actually mobilely and not have to bring them into the shop. You don't need as much heavy duty equipment and just need the know-how of the technician and some diagnostic tools and that type of thing. So yeah, I'm optimistic about it, and I think Curbee's making a lot of great strides in terms of solving some of those operational problems and that have probably plagued some of those initiatives in the past. So yeah, I'm excited for what it looks like going forward.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Have you joined the team?
Well, thank you very much, Denise, for being with us. Really appreciate your time today, and I think our listeners just got a whole lot out of it, and I know I certainly did. So thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Retention Roadmap, Navigating Service Success for New Car Dealerships. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.